Hey, Dread Central readers. I'm here with She Came from the Woods co-writer and director Erik Bloomquist. Thank you for joining me today, Erik. I'm a big fan of the film, and I'm excited to talk about it with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tyler.
Well, on that note, let's get started. I have some ideas as to which films might have been influential in the creation of She Came from the Woods, and I touched on that a bit in my review for Dread Central. But I'd love to hear from you which movies served as inspiration.
When we were prepping the movie, probably in the months before, Carson, my brother, and I watched through most of the entire Friday the 13th box set because, candidly, as we were writing it, there were a lot of gaps for that series. And we just kind of wanted to familiarize ourselves with it, both as just a way of getting ourselves like in that time period and world, but also like to make sure that we weren't lifting anything specifically in terms of our approach. Like we do want to be our own thing. So we watched that. We watched Sleepaway Camp, The Burning, a few others like that, just to kind of uh, associate ourselves with different, what we would hope be kind of contemporaries. Because the way we always wanted to approach this was that it was almost like a movie that could have been made then. We didn't want to approach it with this like modern wink to the whole thing, and we didn't want to make a big joke about it. We wanted it to sort of feel like it could have been a lost script from the 80s and just made with maybe just a little bit of dimensionality that we can bring to the table now.
I get that, certainly. So can you elaborate a bit and tell me how you went about arguably improving upon the summer camp slasher formula that was established by films like Friday the 13th? Because, I think you managed to throw in plenty of subversions of expectations that make your film feel fresh and different from a lot of what we've seen previously. And that's not easy. If it were, everyone would be doing it.
I really appreciate you saying that. I think that the approach that we wanted to have, which I think resonates with a lot of people, and some people might be a little confused by it, is that we do treat the movie like for probably the first 25 minutes like a genuine coming of age movie, both in the way that we're tonally setting things up and introducing characters, and introducing the central family, who I think is the bedrock of the whole thing. And that to me is what makes that first moment of subversion, the first act of violence, such what I hope is like a betrayal of confidence built with audience and kind of that contract that we have built. And it'd be interesting to me to think of like, I mean, and it would never have happened if this were advertised as a coming of age movie, and then that happened, and nobody knew that like it was going to devolve into that. But that's how I wanted to approach it for the characters, um, and the tone that we have, because the movie really is about this moment of transition and wanting to hang on to something that is passing, and the changing of the seasons, and stories you tell and secrets you keep, and legacy, and how sometimes hanging on tightly to something can cause more of a problem. And the villainess, whatever, in many ways is kind of a manifestation of that theme. So I just kind of wanted to grab by the heart as much as we could without getting overly sentimental in those first 25 minutes.
Speaking of grabbing by the heart, and you touched on this a little bit, I really like the notion that Camp Briarbrook is a family-run operation that brings a real sense of heart to the picture. What prompted you to go that route as opposed to the more conventional hodgepodge of staffers, many of whom have no pre-existing acquaintance? I thought that was a really smart move, and I'm just kind of curious how you decided to go that route.
Um, there's something about the generational component that feels very evocative to me and Carson, both based on our own camp experiences, where we went to a family run summer day camp, not an overnight camp. But there was this family at the center of it. I don't want to say it's like loosely based on it, but just kind of those feelings that evokes. And I think it grounds the movie with a sense of history, that there is this central component to the whole thing, which I think helps you buy into these relationships as well, and allows you to see the happenings and have empathy from different perspectives. And I also think that it allows the central legend to be told in three different ways. So over the course of the movie, the first time we're introduced to it is as you would be if you were any of the counselors. Peter, the young protagonist, tells the story as he always has around the campfire. They do the ritual, whatever. 20, 30 minutes later, mom, Cara Buono, tells the story again, and you sort of see it from like a first person perspective and what might have happened beyond what the game of telephone has had the story become over the years. And then the third time you hear the story, it's from another angle. The camera pivots again, and it's from Gilbert, played by Bill Sadler, and you get some more secrets unfolding. So the story becomes, I think, increasingly dimensional, and hopefully that heightens this theme of like how things get lost to history and when that is the responsible choice, and when and how and where you divulge it is the responsible choice. So that to me was a very important component for the whole thing.
That's a really smart take. I really appreciated the way that you guys held back for quite some time on truly kind of hashing out Nurse Agnes' backstory and even making the audience kind of question her role in the events that are unfolding. Usually we would have, as you mentioned, around a campfire, we would have had the whole story explained to us with no ambiguity or questions about, is this what's really going on? But you took a very kind of just leave a tiny little trail of breadcrumbs approach. How deliberate was that throughout the writing process? I mean, was that sort of a happy accident that we're not hit over the head with it? Or, as I'm guessing, was that perhaps more intentional? You wanted to kind of plant some seeds of doubt?
I think planting seeds of doubt. I mean, there are even certain moments where I think on rewatch or maybe even on initial watch, you can question like to what degree the energy and spirit of Agatha is actually in informing what's happening, and to what degree people are kind of the purveyors of their own demise. I am very interested in this idea that when conjured, there's just an energy shift that begins to just worm its way into psyches in different ways, and she kind of becomes one with the elements until she becomes corporeal again. And that was something that was interesting to us, is just how does the energy of the place change as night sets in, as people get closer to the official end of summer, and how does that work as you move toward the physical manifestation of her. So that's, to me, I would love to watch, I'm sure it would be super fun, a movie where like from the jump a creepy camp nurse is chasing people through the woods with an axe the entire movie. But to me it was about this group of people and how the legend brings sometimes the best and sometimes the worst out of them.
I'm so sorry, Eric. I called Agatha Agnes. That's
Oh no, it's fine. We probably were thinking of Agnes at one point too.
okay. Well, thank you for not holding that against me. Okay, this is my final question. You guys did a really impressive job of walking the very fine line between horror and comedy, and that's so hard to do. So many horror comedies are really funny or really scary, but so few check both boxes. What would you say is the secret to effectively presenting those two genres in one package and killing it like you did?
Thanks. I I don't think we ever set out to make like the funniest genre movie you've ever seen or the most like blood curdlingly scary drama horror movie you've ever seen. I grew up watching things like Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark? And obviously there are moments of Are You Afraid of the Dark. This is another conversation that I'd love to have that are very blood curdling to me. But just in terms of, we wanted to make something that felt like you would want to rent it as a 13-year-old on a Friday night at Blockbuster in the 90s. There are pieces of cinematography that reflect that. There are tonal shifts that reflect that. And I think that it all being grounded with that family drama at the center of it, and that piece of heart kind of allows, one scene to kind of turn into this like wacky fun and another scene to kind of curdle into something creepy or action packed, but it always kind of returns to this center of this family navigating their way through this story and feelings of trauma and betrayal. I say trauma not like this is a big old heavy movie. Like this is it's not a hard swallow. But I if that makes sense, that was kind of the approach, is just to allow these things to all kind of be spokes off of this center wheel of family.
Certainly. Well, I think you did a tremendous job. Such a fan. And, for anyone that hasn't seen it yet, I absolutely recommend checking it out. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Thank you so much for chatting with me, Erik. It's been a true pleasure, and I cannot wait to see what you do next.